This is Rudy with Aquatic Facility Training and Consultants, and this is Pool Talk. It floats, it skims, and it's powered by the sun. But does it really work, and what's it all about? And if it does, how do you get one? I reached out to Solar Breeze to talk about the Solar Breeze NX and their CEO, Paul Sim. I wanted to talk a little bit about your cleaner. I've seen a couple of the videos, and I've seen some reviews and some different write-ups on it. It looked pretty interesting. I thought it was cool, so I thought I'd reach out, say hello, and see if you could tell us a little bit about what you have going on, and had some questions as well.
Sure. So let me give you the trade show explanation on the product. It's basically kind of like a Roomba for your pool. You put it in the water, turn on the switch. It has two paddle wheels, one at the front and one at the rear. The rear paddle wheel propels the unit through the water.
Okay.
And the front paddle wheel scoops up all of the debris that's floating on the surface of the pool before it sinks. So the reason you want to do that is that, most of the stuff people clean off the bottom of their pool floats on the surface for 3 or 4 hours before it sinks. And of course, by the time it gets to the bottom, it's already decayed. It's created bacteria in your pool. It's started the process of maybe creating algae and all that sort of thing.
Okay.
And so it's just a lot healthier for the pool to get all of that stuff off the surface before it sinks. And it also makes your pool just look a lot nicer too. So, the value proposition revolves around a couple of things. One is you never have to hand skim your pool again. There's a whole convenience factor. This pool always looks nice and shiny and kind of sparkly because all pools, most of them have kind of a film of, dust and dirt and grime that's on the surface, even if there's not a lot of debris on it. And so the Solar Breeze cleans that up, and the pool just looks nice and shiny and beautiful. So it always looks nice and shiny. You never have to hand skim your pool again. And then based on the fact that you get all of that debris before it sinks to the bottom, most people find they get a lot less bacteria growth in their pool, and they can actually reduce the amount of time they run their pool pump by as much as a half to 2/3. So in many cases, if you're got a 2.5 horsepower pump, and say like they do here in Arizona, and run it 8 or 9 hours a day during the summertime, if you can cut that back in half, you're probably going to save close to the cost of the product in your first year of operation. So there's a cost savings and convenience factor that goes with it. So that's really kind of the basic concept. The solar panels draw about 12 watts of electricity, or produce about 12 watts of electricity. And the unit itself only requires about 2 watts to run. So what happens is during the day when it's running, you got a nice sunny day, it's actually charging the battery at the same time that it's running. And so when the sun goes down, it's going to operate off of that battery power. In the summertime, pretty much all night. Most people report, especially in the Sun Belt states and even in the northern states, in the summertime the unit runs pretty much around the clock. Now in the wintertime, where people keep their pools open in the south, through the year, and they'll probably leave the unit in the pool, the operating cycle time is going to go down a little bit because the sun's lower in the sky. It's not drawing it's not collecting as much energy in the daytime. So you'll probably find that it'll shut down, 5 or 6 hours after sundown. But
okay,
it still runs a lot.
This product's been out for a little while now, a few years.
Yeah, we've had a couple of different iterations. We introduced the very first version of this probably in about 2011.
Okay.
But
you're getting a lot more press now.
Yeah, so it's taken like any new concept, new idea, people thought we were a joke for the first couple of years until a few customers actually bought it, and then they told their friends, and they told their friends, and so actually in 2013-14 we were growing at a pretty good pace.
And
then we ran into a problem where we lost our financing capacity to pay for our manufacturing. One of the challenges with this business, this is true of any equipment in the pool industry. You know, there's the selling season is pretty short, pretty seasonal. To stock up to have your equipment in place when the demand is there, and for a product like ours, the lead time is fairly high. So there's a big gap between when we have to be paying our suppliers to get equipment in place to have inventory for the pool season. We sell it and get paid by our customers. So, and of course, as you're growing, that gap gets bigger, right? And so we ran into a situation where we couldn't finance that gap one year, and we essentially didn't have any product to sell in 2015. And so then we launched the NX version in 2015 through Kickstarter because we had a pretty good customer base by then, and a lot of our customers.
I saw that, and you guys did really well on Kickstarter, didn't you?
We raised about $400,000 on Kickstarter in 2015, and we used those funds to kind of relaunch the business. And so we delivered the first version of the NX model in 2016. And then last year, we kind of pieced together, financing to continue to grow the business, and we continued to sell the NX through this year. And then this year we've launched what we call the NX2, which is an updated version of the NX where we're using polycarbonate plastics instead of the polypropylene fiberglass blend we used to use. And we've made some other upgrades to the product as well. So we launched the NX2 for 2018 for this season, and we think we're probably gonna double sales this year with it, and we hope to continue that path for the next few years.
What does NX stand for?
Next generation, NX, just sort of next.
I saw on your website that you have Australia listed and Arizona, so are you a US-based company that sells in Australia?
Yeah, no, our home base is Arizona.
Okay.
We have an Australia website because we have a partner down in Australia in Brisbane, a company down there that we work with that stocks product for us down there and handles our inventory and fulfillment.
Okay.
And we have a separate site for Australian customers where they can order as opposed to ordering through the US sites.
And how fine of a particle does this actually catch?
The screen is around 50 microns, so it's
so 50, 50?
Yeah. So it'll screen out fairly small particles, So for instance, I have a palm tree next to my pool. It'll screen out all of the small palm seeds and that sort of thing.
A grain of salt being about 100 microns across, so this can actually filter out particles about half the size of a grain of salt.
Yeah. So it'll, and so pollens, most pollens and that sort of thing. Certainly dog hair. We have a lot of customers whose dogs probably use their pools more than they do, and it gets all the dog hair and keeps it from plugging up their pool systems. The other thing that that's one thing to consider as well. I know a lot of people have skimmers, skimmer inlets in their pools, but the reality is a lot of the stuff typically sinks to the bottom, and if it gets to the bottom, unless you're using a robotic cleaner, if you're using like a suction side or a pressure side cleaner, most of that stuff's going to end up in your filter as well. So the more you clear off the top, keep it from sinking to the bottom, the cleaner you're going to keep the rest of your filtration.
I saw the video, and I apologize, this year's the first I've seen of it, so I've not caught anything as far as earlier runs, but you have a good amount of press going this year, which is great, so that's an awesome sign for you guys. And I saw it running around, but then I saw some of the other things, claims that come with it. I wanted to ask about those. It indicates, and you'd mentioned a few moments ago, we could cut the runtime of the filter down below 8 hours a day, but being in the pool industry, looking at replacing skimming and then also, one thing, and then also running the filter less, not something that really falls in line because there's other aspects of circulation as well. That's one of the things that I have a question on, and claiming that we can save almost $1,600 a year in using this cleaner. I'm assuming the pump cost is a big portion of that, correct?
Yeah, that's a large portion of it. And keep in mind that we were just sharing on that what customer shared with us in terms of what his personal experience was.
So that's not based off of
also
any actual statistics, just basically one customer's.
it's we have customers regularly share with us that outcome. I mean, so let me share with you my own personal experience.
Okay.
I'm in here in Arizona.
Right.
So it gets to be 110, 115 degrees in the summertime. And you know, most people here in Arizona recommend that you run your, and I don't have a huge pool. It's like 16,000 gallons or something like that. But even at that, I also don't have a large pump. It's like, you know, 1.5 horsepower or 1 horsepower pump or something. And so, you know, the recommendation always, and I had this pool long before I ever got involved in this business. And the recommendation always was, you know, in the summertime, run your pool pump, you know, probably 10 hours a day, 10 or 11 hours a day. So, since I started using a Solar Breeze, I run my pool pump 4 or 5 hours a day in the summertime and 2 hours a day in the winter. And I take my water samples in to get them tested regularly, and they always test out great. So, why would I run my pool pump more if my water samples are testing out great? And I seem to be, you know, and the pool's always clean and clear.
One of the things we look at, I guess, in circulation, I mean, it's not just so much for the skimming action, although you're correct. If you skim the stuff from the surface, there'll be less debris on the floor. Still, as far as circulating the water, chemically treating the water, that type of thing, realistically, we shoot for about 1 turnover a day of the water in the pool. In a residential pool, that's about once every 8 hours. Again, and filtration, filters pulling out particles much finer than the 50 microns that the cleaner can catch. That's still going to be an important part of what's going on. Can you run certain pools less than that? I mean, pools are like a fingerprint. Every pool's a pool, but everyone's a little bit different. I would question dropping the runtime of the filter just for the overall health of the pool as well. You know, because your skimmer in the side of the pool will do continuous skimming as well when it's running, but it does, you know, take the pool pump to actually make that happen.
But the filter that you're drawing that product through on your skimmer is not 50 microns.
No, it's much smaller, much less than that. The filters that you have on your for your pool filter.
No, but all I'm saying is that you're comparing the impact of your skimmer to the impact of the Solar Breezes.
Well, not the skimmer itself, but the skimmer leads to the filter, and the filter is actually doing the filtering. I don't think
I agree
constant
with that.
skimming is going to replace filtration or water circulation. I think it'll definitely aid in assisting. I think it'll give you longer filter runs, which would be greater time in between backwashings. There would be less debris in the pool, so I definitely get that. I would just question the ability to run the filter less because I had this going on, so I don't really know if that I'm in agreement with.
Now, once again, a lot of those claims are not our claims. They're information that customers have shared with us, and also from our own personal experience of being pool owners ourselves. So the reality is probably the only way we'll know that for sure is to, you know, actually we probably need to hire somebody like Fipsy or something like that to run a test over, you know, a selection of pools and get a controlled scientific test and do the data and go that way. And we'd be happy to do that. I mean, that's not an issue.
Understand that there's a chlorine tablet holder in this device as well. So
That's
as
correct.
it runs around, it will chlorinate the water. With the cleaner itself being made of plastic, do we have any long-term testing on how well the cleaner holds up with that concentration of chlorine?
we've had units in the field since 2011. We've never seen a chlorine tray come back with a hole in it. So, it seems like that hasn't been an issue. Now, we use polypropylene in the original cleaners, and we have polycarbonate compound in the current version, the NX2. I don't expect that there'll be, the chemistry of the two plastics. It doesn't indicate that there should be any real difference on the impact of the chlorine on the tubes.
Most things that float in a pool, and I understand this has a paddle wheel and it moves, but most things that float in the pool, when the pool filter is running, they end up getting sucked and drawn toward the skimmer. Is this strong enough to pull away?
Yeah, in most cases, it is. Now some of the bigger pools with the heavier pumps, there may be occasionally an issue. Quite often, what you'll find though is that the bumper wheels are set at such a level that often the bumper wheels run along the coping as opposed to underneath it, and so it never really gets drawn into that either. And if a customer does have a problem with that sort of thing, we have some attachments that you can add to the unit that will help prevent that from happening.
Okay. And this is a random pattern cleaner, obviously.
Yeah, it's not. See, the surface of the pool is dynamic, so it's a little more forgiving that way than if you're trying to map out your living room floor and make sure you picked up every piece of dirt on your living room floor. The speck of dust that's on your pool surface now will be in a different location, 4 or 5 minutes from now. So.
And what's the capacity? It catches the debris in like a basket, right? And
yeah, so it's the storage capacity is about twice the size of your normal skimmer basket.
Okay, so that would hold quite a bit of debris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we just send you one?
Okay. That works perfect. You can send me one. That would be fantastic. I'd be happy to test it out for you.
Yeah, I mean, you're a blogger and you're obviously knowledgeable guy. So I always like to get feedback from
I would absolutely love to test it out for you and give you feedback. I know, now going back to the savings and stuff, in that savings, one of the things that it states is that this can enable you to eliminate your pool guy or girl. And I would assume if you had your and being that's who most of my folks are, I have to bring it up because it does say that. But in saying that we can eliminate the pool professional, assuming that's in a pool where we mainly have the pool guy or girl because we skim the surface. Outside of that, or even debris that falls to the floor that have to be vacuumed, but as far as filter maintenance, chemical maintenance, water testing, so on and so forth, I'm certain we don't recommend that you buy this and fire your pool professional.
No, that's exactly right. We don't. And in fact, actually, we have a lot of, it's interesting. We have different reactions from the pool service industry to this product. Some guys are kind of afraid of it because they're concerned that maybe the customer won't want them anymore. But actually, we have a lot of other guys, a number of other guys that actively promote the product to their customers, and they do that for commercial reasons. Some of the feedback I get from the pool service guys is that every pool I have that has a solar breeze in it, it takes me 15 minutes less time to service that pool when I.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's afraid of it. I know that when I used to do service, I know if there were less things to skim, that made my job easier, so I'm all for that. So with that, from the service aspect, are these things available through distribution?
They're not, and they're not for a couple of reasons. We sell a lot of our product on a lot of it. Our current sales are web-based, either through our website or we have a couple of pretty good-sized dealers that are primarily web-based. Pool Zone, Backyard Pool Superstore, and last year we made some product available to distribution, and what happened was some of that started to show up on the web at $100 less than what our dealers, what the retail price was and what our dealers were selling it for. And so what we found is it's really, really hard for us to control the public pricing of the product as soon as we release it out to distribution. So we've actually taken the decision that we're not selling through distribution. Now we're happy to sell direct to the pool service guys ourselves, or they can contact some of our bigger dealers like Poolsum and Backyard Pool Superstore and buy through them. But we've chosen not to make this available through distribution at this point.
So that way folks don't have to compete with online sites that are selling it for less than they can purchase it for when they're...
Yeah, exactly. It gives us an opportunity to control our channels a little bit more effectively than we can otherwise.
So
we ran into some issues with that last year, and so we just made a conscious decision. You know, there may come a time when, to get to the volumes we want to get to, we have to open it up to distribution. But at this stage in our development and our growth, we just feel like, you know, we feel like we would like to control more than less, and so we actually cut back the number of dealers that are selling the product this year.
okay.
We're working with guys that we know we can trust.
So what is the Solar Breeze NX list for? What's the retail on that?
The NX2 is $598, and the NX is $498.
Okay. And you said
And
that...
the NX we're not building anymore, so we're just clearing out stock.
So just basically then just look at the NX2 and the NX is there until it's gone, and then that's it. And for the pool service guy who wants to actively sell those, I'm not going to ask you what pricing they get, not on something that I'm going to blog, but who do they contact?
Well, I'll tell you, as
How
long
do they
as
get
it doesn't go out on your blog, but
well,
it's...
let's skip it. But
okay.
let's
yeah,
but
let's just say that we have standard pricing available to
okay.
to pool service companies.
And how do they get it? Who do they contact? Who do they call? What do they need to do?
They either phone our home office number, or the best way really for them to do it is to email customer service, all one word, at solar, SOLAR -breeze, BREECE.com.
Okay. So again, one more time.
Customer service, all one word, at solar, which is our website basically, solar-breeze.com, SOLAR-BREECE.com.
Okay. And what type of warranty do these carry?
It's 12-month warranty.
And the process for warranting the unit?
Typically, if customer contact, we actually encourage customers to contact us directly rather than going through our dealers, because we know more about the product. If there's an issue with the product, we will typically make arrangements for them to send it back into us.
So this is one of those don't contact your dealer to return this item, call us type of things?
Yeah, that's usually what we prefer, because it's an early stage product. Not a lot of people know about it, and a lot of the dealers haven't really bothered to take the time to figure out how it works.
Okay.
We find that our customers get better service if they contact us directly. We're geared up, and we have the resources in place to handle that.
Okay. As far as parts availability, things
They're
along
from
those
us.
lines? Okay. So service guys can work on these poolside?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, we have service videos that they can follow. We've had customers fix them themselves. That's part of the reason we put the service videos together, is that we had some customers that said, "This doesn't look that complicated. I think I could change this motor out."
Okay.
So
And those are the things that I want to know. If I'm going to sell one of these, I want to know what happens when it needs to be warranted, what happens when it breaks, what happens when I need to repair it, and will I be able to get the parts?
Yeah, we have all the parts available in stock. Anything that you would need to replace to fix this unit, because we keep them in stock for ourselves when units come in for repair.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I definitely appreciate you talking with me about it. That's wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd want to add that you think folks need to know about? I watched the videos. They look great. I appreciate the information and my questions.
No, and if your target audience is mostly the pool service guys, all I'd say is, we are enthusiastic about getting more pool service partners as part of our distribution channel, and I just encourage it to give us a call, even if they have any questions about the product. And we can find ways to make it easy for them to get the product into some of their customers' hands.
Well, I think those are going to be the key things. I do think that, again, parts availability, warranty, just overall support on the product is also going to be something. It probably is, I don't think there's anybody out there that's not going to appreciate the fact that something that's skimming constantly at one of the pools they take care of is not going to be a huge benefit. I don't think anybody's going to be afraid that's going to actually eliminate work, because there's a lot more to swimming pool service.
Looking after the pool and just skimming the surface.
Exactly. So this just skims the surface, and realistically, there's a lot. Pool service goes a lot deeper than that.
Good.
So.
Well, I'm really glad you called, Rudy. Thanks
it was
so
great.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you reached out and we were able to have this conversation, and let's do keep in touch.
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely, and I look forward to seeing the cleaner and trying it out and giving you a little bit of feedback on that as well. So that was Paul Sim of Solar Breeze talking about the Solar Breeze NX2, their solar-powered, sun-driven, surface skimming samurai of leaf destruction. I am Rudy with Aquatic Facility Training and Consultants, and this was Pool Talk. Until next time, remember, life is always better by the pool.